The Duel of Mustafar is considered by many fans as the best saber duel in the Star Wars movies. The artistic choreography from Nick Gillard and intense training Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor undertook delivered a high-octane dramatic duel that reminds us of how far we've fallen in quality with the sequel movies. Yet something less explored about this saber duel is how it represents Anakin and Obi-Wan's character and the dynamic of their relationship. So, in honour of the 20th anniversary theatre re-release of Revenge of the Sith, in this video I will use a data visualisation of the Duel of Mustafar to explain how it reflects the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan and what each one was thinking of the other as they battled until Anakin's tragic end. And before we get into the visualization, can I please ask that you like this video and subscribe so we can get this data to as big an audience as possible. So let's get started. In this visualization, I've used a radial bar chart to represent the passage of time going around the circle, from the start at the top in a clockwise direction to the end. And each bar represents a move where one character takes the initiative and fights the other. If a character has a sequence of moves, the bars get higher, representing the momentum they gain in the duel. And if the other character initiates a move, the momentum is lost and restarts. And Anakin's moves in his transformation to Vader are represented in Sith red, and Obi-Wan's moves are in blue. What we immediately see in this visualization is the momentum Anakin gains at different points in the duel, and especially at the beginning as he flips forward to Obi-Wan and takes the duel to him with high, powerful strikes to overwhelm him. This sequence of aggressive heavy strikes represents his mastery of the Form 5 or Gemso lightsaber form. It's a lesser used form by the Jedi and has the advantage of emphasizing powerful aggressive strikes. Yet its drawback is it takes high energy and typically requires the user to end a duel quickly. And we can see in this opening scene that this was likely Anakin's strategy to overwhelm his master and finish him quickly. Yet his master Obi-Wan would have also known this, having trained him from a young boy to the man he saw before him that had descended to the dark side. And so it's not surprising at this point he would go on the defensive, expecting this barrage of blows, and this also played to his strengths as a master of Form 3 or Surisu, a style suited to defense and conserving strength for endurance in longer fights, an important point we'll come back to in the latter stages of this duel. And back to the opening barrage, Nick Gillard himself has spoken about the intent in the choreography to represent Obi-Wan's motives in the duel, that he was, for the most part, attempting to absolve all the blows, not only defending himself, but also preventing Anakin from harming himself in the grip of the dark side and his hope that he could bring him back to the light. Yet I've got my doubts about this mindset applying throughout the duel, and I think it shows in the direction and performance of the actors. Sure, what Gillard says makes sense for the opening barrage, but just before Obi-Wan fights back at the edge of the landing platform, we see something in his face. It's brief, but it's clear. Fear. Fear that his apprentice has ascended in power above him, and as he advanced with his powerful blows, a fear that he could meet his end in this duel if he doesn't try something else other than defending. And just after this moment, we see Obi-Wan gain some momentum with defensive moves that change the direction of the duel, to the point where he makes his first genuine attack, when Anakin spins to land a blow and exposes his back, and Obi-Wan swings his saber towards him. This is not a defensive move, but an attack to harm his apprentice, and only blocked when Anakin has the presence of mind to pivot from attack to defense. And it's after this fight back from Obi-Wan that Anakin regains his own momentum, brutally kicking him, then overpowering him with saber strikes in the corridor to the control room. And I think at this point we come back to Gillard's intention in his choreography, where Obi-Wan is clearly on the defensive, and in this sequence he intermittently attacks. I think it's because he's looking to again limit Anakin's momentum and reduce his energy levels. Yet Anakin seems oblivious to this, in full flow, pushing Obi-Wan back with his signature back twirl before attempting what I think is a repeat of how he defeated Count Dooku in the opening of the movie, attempting to cut off his master's hands as he grabs his hand to twist his saber around the other. Yet Obi-Wan is sensitive to this and twists his body in line with his motion. While I'm speculating this was Anakin's intent, I think it's interesting he would try this move against his master. Was he also trying to disarm him rather than kill him outright? While I question it, I also doubt it, as I think it's a step towards the dark side that Anakin took, attempting to overpower and humiliate his master, to prove that he was the more skillful, more powerful swordsman. And this, along with the back saber twirl, are the first signs of Anakin's arrogance in the duel, that we of course will return to at his tragic end. But before we get to this, we need to recognise another moment that goes against Gillard's assertion that Obi-Wan was only interested in defence, and it's at this moment just after Anakin attempted to cut off his hands, where Obi-Wan, having twisted his body in Anakin's motion, again attempts to strike him in the back with his saber, only for Anakin again to block the attack. This move, this look on Obi-Wan's face, does not represent a master only on the defence. This is anger. This is him reacting to Anakin's attempt to maim him, and speaks to a more nuanced dynamic in the saber duel and their relationship, one of warring brothers rather than the father Anakin needed as Palpatine seduced him to the dark side. Yet from this moment of defence from Anakin, we return to a barrage of aggressive blows and Obi-Wan's reliance on his defence. And from this point, Anakin regains momentum, leading to the first moment where either character could have won the duel by killing the other. And this is when Anakin concludes his barrage of saber blows by choking and physically overpowering Obi-Wan, trying to force his own saber to decapitate him. It's in this moment, with Anakin near snarling at Obi-Wan, fixated in hatred and focused on nothing but the death of his master, we see he cannot turn back to the light. And after Obi-Wan escapes this hold and they trade some kicks, we see a third moment he attempts to kill Anakin, calling his saber with the Force and Anakin only surviving by calling his saber just in time. And this is the key moment I think Obi-Wan knows he needs to kill Anakin. He cannot just defend and try and turn him back to the light, because there is no way back for him. And at this moment he knows that Yoda was right when he sent him to Mustafar, that the only way to rid the Republic of the Empire is to kill his apprentice, his friend, his brother. And it's after this moment of recognition we see more equality in their moves, trading blows and cancelling each other out. This leads us to the infamous air twirl between them that has drawn a lot of criticism in fan forums. Yet I look at it a different way, where two foes that are also friends are in a near meditative state, drawing on their past training duels and waiting for the other to make a move, which both of them duly do with an attempted force push, leading to Anakin damaging the controls and the platforms they later duel on, losing their energy. It's from this point that I believe Obi-Wan set out to create the conditions for him to win the duel and kill his friend. From this moment, although Anakin still exudes strength and aggression, it's Obi-Wan leading him to where he wants to go, rather than Anakin forcing him back. A key moment is when Obi-Wan jumps on the pipe, knowing that his defensive form and balance will reduce the potency of Anakin's strength and aggression, which it duly does where they more equally trade blows, while Obi-Wan backs away looking for his next environment to control the duel. And after jumping to another platform and Anakin punching him, Obi-Wan fights back and grapples with Anakin, bringing us this iconic image from the saga. At this point, there's no intricate choreography, just two people fighting it out to the end. It's also interesting at this point that Palpatine senses Anakin is in danger and requests his ship to be ready to take him to Mustafar. Here, Palpatine senses the same shift in the duel with Obi-Wan that we see in this visualization, one where he is now controlling the events and knowing his apprentice as he does, leading Anakin to his death. On that note, a key moment is when Obi-Wan is the first of the two to realise the lava start falling on the bridge. And although Anakin follows him to safety, such is his singular hatred for his master that despite lava raining down on him, he still takes the chance to strike at him, which Obi-Wan expects and blocks. And even when the platform they are on starts descending into the lava, it's Obi-Wan who notices and plans an escape by climbing to the top when it's turned upright. Whereas Anakin has nothing but focused hatred for his master, following him not to save himself but to kill Obi-Wan. Ironically, it's the first time on the upturned platform that Obi-Wan has the high ground on Anakin, and he uses this to good effect, trading blows with him and negating his strength and aggression from a higher position. And for a third time, Obi-Wan again sees the conditions around him changing before Anakin, when he realises they are about to fall down the lava fall, then swinging on the rope to plot his escape, with his apprentice doing the same but only in the interest of killing his master. Which brings us to the next move from Obi-Wan, jumping to the platform floating on the lava and Anakin following him on the worker droid. It's at this moment we have the now iconic dialogue between them about the Jedi, which while I admit is clunky at times, it still gets the hairs on my neck when I hear Obi-Wan scream at Anakin that he is lost. lost to the dark side, lost to fear, lost to anger, and lost to hate. And after they trade blows between them on the platform, we reach the fifth and final time Obi-Wan takes control of the duel by choosing the surroundings when he jumps to the high ground. Here we see Anakin's last chance to back down, drowned in his arrogance and hatred for his master, consumed by the dark side in taking one last aggressive jump at his master, which will be his last before he's encased in a metal suit for the remainder of his life. And while we see nobility in Obi-Wan giving his apprentice one last chance to turn to the light, we also see a darkness in him when he makes the move to maim Anakin, cutting off his arm and legs. It happens so fast that to the naked eye it looks like just one swipe of the saber, but when we freeze frame Anakin's jump, we actually see two swipes in quick succession. One where he cuts off Anakin's non-mechanical hand, and then another when he deliberately cuts off his legs. This technique, known as Mukai, is forbidden by the Jedi because of its cruelty, in being one yet multiple motions to dismember an opponent. And it's the use of this move that symbolises Obi-Wan's intent. At this point, with his apprentice not accepting his final offer to close the duel and turn to the light, he left nothing to chance. He chose to cut off his friend's remaining limbs. Some would say he had no choice after such a long duel with little chance Anakin would back down, and I would tend to agree with them. But equally, this was planned, controlled, and executed, leaving little to chance. Of course, after this tragic end for Anakin, as he burnt in the fires of Mustafar, Obi-Wan also chose not to kill him, and I think this represents the conflict within Obi-Wan. He was sent by Yoda to kill Anakin and thought he could turn him back to the light, yet after both realising he had to fight for his life and his friend would never turn back, he did what he thought was needed to remove him as a threat to the Republic, while not needing to do the unthinkable, which in the end was to kill him when defenceless and likely to die in the fire pits anyway. Which of course he later regretted when he faced Vader in the Obi-Wan series, though as I comment on in another video about Anakin, this later gives him the opportunity of redemption in saving his son and killing Palpatine to bring peace back to the Republic. And back to the Duel of Mustafar, we see in this visualization a more nuanced dynamic between Anakin and Obi-Wan. The duel will always be considered as one of, if not the best saber duel in Star Wars, yet the flows of momentum between the characters and Obi-Wan's transition from defense to strategic attack show us so much more about the relationship between master and apprentice, and Anakin's arrogance in his downfall. If you liked this video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and please check out my other Star Wars analysis videos. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the way of data and observation, we can save Star Wars and entertainment.